In the heart of a small town, nestled among gently rolling hills, stood the community hospital, a sanctuary of healing, compassion, and quiet resilience. The hospital's facade, a modest brick building with white trim and large windows that reflected the clear blue sky, exuded a sense of warmth and familiarity. Inside, the corridors were painted in soft, muted tones and decorated with local artwork, creating an atmosphere that felt more like a welcoming home than a sterile medical facility. The steady murmur of conversation, interspersed with the rhythmic beeping of monitors and the soft footsteps of staff, formed a gentle symphony of care. Every corner of the hospital seemed to whisper tales of hope, struggle, and redemption, inviting all who passed through its halls to believe in the healing power of kindness. At the very heart of this vibrant institution worked Nurse Eleanor Thompson, affectionately known as Ellie. With her gentle manner, empathetic eyes, and an ever-present smile, Ellie personified the very essence of the hospital's mission. Born and raised in this close-knit community, she had grown up with a deep-rooted understanding of the struggles and triumphs that defined small-town life. Her upbringing in a modest household had instilled in her a profound sense of empathy and an unyielding desire to help others. Every gesture, every word of comfort she offered was imbued with sincerity and warmth. For Ellie, nursing was not merely a profession, it was a calling, a way of making the world a little brighter for those in need. Every morning, as the soft glow of dawn began to spread across the horizon, Ellie would arrive at the hospital with quiet determination. The early hours were sacred to her. They were a time of reflection and preparation for the day's challenges. She believed in the power of small acts of kindness, a gentle touch, a few reassuring words, a genuine smile to bring about profound healing. In the softly lit corridors of the hospital, where the air was filled with a blend of antiseptic cleanliness and the comforting scent of fresh flowers placed on every windowsill, Ellie's presence shone like a beacon of hope. Her daily routine was not just about administering medicine or checking vital signs, it was about touching lives, one patient at a time. Among the many souls whose lives were intertwined within these welcoming walls was a man known simply as Mr. Jonathan Harlow. His presence was as enigmatic as it was poignant. Jonathan had been admitted in a state of deep coma following a mysterious accident that had left both his family and the medical staff searching for answers. Though his physical form lay motionless, in a quiet, sunlit room, there was an unmistakable dignity about him, a sense of a life rich with unspoken stories and long-forgotten dreams. Jonathan's room, located in a quieter wing of the hospital, was a sanctuary in itself. Large windows allowed streams of natural light to filter in, softening the clinical edges of the space, while carefully chosen decor lent the room an air of calm and solace. It was in this peaceful environment that Ellie first encountered Jonathan's silent presence. As she tended to his needs, adjusting his pillows, ensuring the IV dripped steadily, and softly murmuring words of encouragement, she felt an inexplicable connection to him. Though Jonathan could not respond, his stillness spoke volumes. There was a quiet strength in his unresponsive eyes, a hint of a profound inner life that resonated deeply with Ellie. In her heart, she believed that every patient carried a universe of experiences and emotions, and Jonathan was no exception. His unspoken story was woven into the fabric of his very being, waiting patiently for the day it might be fully revealed. The hospital itself was more than just a building. It was a living, breathing entity. It pulsed with the collective energy of its patients and staff, all of whom contributed to an atmosphere of relentless hope and resilience. In the bustling nurses' station, stories of recovery and loss were exchanged in hushed tones, and every conversation held a note of determination to overcome life's many hurdles. The hospital corridors, lined with photographs of smiling families and memorials to lives saved, were a testament to the countless acts of compassion that had unfolded within its walls. It was here that Ellie, with her unflagging kindness and dedication, played an integral part in nurturing both the body and the soul. In the early hours of the day, as the soft light danced on freshly polished floors, Ellie would take a moment to pause by Jonathan's bedside. In these quiet interludes, she would share snippets of her own life, a memory of a warm summer day spent by the town's lake, a cherished moment with a loved one, or simply a hopeful wish for the future. Though Jonathan could not reply, Ellie felt as if the kindness in her words reached him, sparking a silent dialogue that transcended the boundaries of speech and consciousness. It was a reminder that healing was not merely a matter of physical recovery, but also of nurturing the human spirit with love and compassion. As the day unfolded and the gentle hum of hospital life continued, the essence of the institution revealed itself through the dedicated efforts of its staff and the quiet determination of its patients. Ellie's presence, tender and steadfast, was a living reminder that even in moments of profound vulnerability, the warmth of human kindness could light the way toward recovery and hope. In that small town hospital, where every patient was more than just a case and every staff member was more than a role, the spirit of compassion reigned supreme, a testament to the enduring power of empathy and the belief that every life, no matter how quietly it existed, was worthy of care, respect, and love. Every morning, as the first light of dawn crept through the hospital window, Nurse Eleanor Thompson quietly approached Mr. Jonathan Harlow's room with a sense of gentle purpose. Though Jonathan lay in a deep coma and his eyes remained closed to the world, Ellie felt an unspoken invitation, a call to bridge the silence that separated his inner life from the care he so desperately needed. Each visit began as a ritual of tender attention, a careful dance of compassion and quiet conversation that would slowly weave a bond between nurse and patient. In the hushed hours of the early day, Ellie would step into the softly lit room and settle into the chair beside his bed. With a deliberate gentleness, she arranged his personal items, a book of poetry with faded pages, a small framed photograph of a long-forgotten family moment, and a delicate pocket watch that ticked softly, with the rhythm of passing time. These items, like silent storytellers, hinted at a rich past that lay hidden behind Jonathan's current stillness. As she touched each object with reverence, Ellie silently promised to honor the life that had been, even if he could not respond in kind. With each visit, Ellie began to share pieces of her own world. She read passages from the poetry book in a soft, melodic voice, her words floating in the still air and filling the room with an energy that defied the clinical sterility of the surroundings. Her readings were not merely an exercise in duty, they were heartfelt expressions of hope, designed to reach Jonathan's inner self. Even though he remained unresponsive, every carefully enunciated verse was an offering, a quiet plea for connection that transcended the need for spoken replies. In the silence that followed her words, a fragile but meaningful bond started to take shape. As days turned into weeks, the routine evolved into a dialogue of gestures and glances. On some mornings, as Ellie recounted memories of her childhood, the sound of laughter in sun-dappled fields, the comforting aroma of fresh bread from her mother's kitchen, and the warmth of summer evenings spent under starlit skies, she sensed that Jonathan was in his own silent way absorbing every detail. There were fleeting moments when the faintest movement, a barely perceptible twitch of his fingers, or a slight change in the set of his lips, suggested that her words were stirring something deep within him. To anyone else, these gestures might have been dismissed as random spasms, but to Ellie they were whispers of recognition, signs that he was listening, even if only with his soul. Ellie's daily routine soon became interlaced with other small acts of connection. On particularly quiet days, she would place a small music player on the bedside table and let soft melodies fill the space. The gentle strains of classical music or the lulling notes of a piano sonata served as a companion to her spoken words, enhancing the intimate atmosphere of the room. Music, she believed, was a language of emotion that could bypass the barriers of consciousness and speak directly to the heart. In this way, even in his state of silence, Jonathan was not isolated. He was being enveloped by a tapestry of care, woven from sound, memory, and unspoken understanding. Ellie also began to experiment with moments of shared silence. After reading or playing a favorite tune, she would sit quietly, allowing the ambient sounds of the hospital, a distant murmur of voices, the rhythmic beep of monitors, the soft rustle of linen, to create a backdrop for an unvoiced conversation. In those moments, the room felt less like a place of clinical routine and more like a sacred space where time paused, allowing both nurse and patient to be present with each other in profound, if wordless, communion. Through this practice, Ellie reaffirmed her belief that healing was as much about nurturing the spirit as it was about mending the body. There were days when Ellie felt a deep, almost tangible connection with Jonathan, a feeling as though the very air between them vibrated with unspoken emotions. On one such morning, while recounting a memory of her own struggle and triumph, her voice cracked with sincerity, and for a moment the stillness in the room seemed to pulse in response. The light in the window brightened slightly, and the shadows that clung to the corners of the room receded, as if drawn back by the warmth of her compassion. Although Jonathan remained unresponsive, that fleeting instance filled Ellie with the conviction that every life, no matter how silent, was capable of receiving and reflecting kindness. As the days accumulated, these early encounters evolved into a cherished ritual of care. Each morning, Ellie approached Jonathan's bedside with the same gentle determination, ready to offer another day, filled with small acts of empathy. She treated every word spoken, every soft gesture made, as an essential part of a dialogue that went far beyond the physical. For Ellie, these moments were not measured in clinical progress or medical charts, but in the quiet milestones of human connection, a shared journey marked by understanding, respect, and hope. In the interplay of light and shadow, in that modest hospital room, the unspoken bond between nurse and patient grew ever more profound. Every carefully chosen word, every thoughtful silence, and every deliberate act of care became threads in a tapestry that celebrated the inherent dignity of the human spirit. Ellie came to understand that, even when words were absent, the language of the heart was eloquent enough to bridge any divide, offering a promise that healing was possible through genuine connection. By the end of each visit, as the day's light waned and Ellie prepared to leave the room, she carried with her the quiet assurance that her presence had made a difference. Though Jonathan's expression remained unchanged and his responses as subtle as a heartbeat, the bond they had begun to form was a living testament to the power of compassion. In those early encounters, Ellie had discovered that the true measure of care was not in dramatic gestures or immediate recoveries, but in the steady, persistent offering of empathy, a gift that in its own silent way held the promise of awakening, a spirit long held in quiet slumber. In the quiet aftermath of another long shift, Nurse Eleanor Thompson found herself reflecting on the enigma that was Jonathan. The man in the hospital bed had become much more than just a patient to her. He was a mystery, woven from fragments of a past that beckoned to be uncovered. Though he lay silent in his room, each small detail, the carefully arranged personal effects, a faded photograph, a letter with worn edges, spoke volumes of a life once lived in full, vibrant color. Over time, these pieces began to form a subtle mosaic of a man whose identity was layered with secrets, accomplishments, and heartaches. For Ellie, these clues ignited a deep and abiding curiosity, compelling her to learn more about the life that had led him to this quiet state of unconsciousness. One brisk afternoon, as light filtered through the hospital's arched windows and bathed the corridor in a gentle glow, Ellie encountered Mrs. Marjorie Carter. An elderly visitor with soft, knowing eyes and a tender smile, Mrs. Carter had once known Jonathan in a time when his spirit was as vivid as his smile. Over tea in a secluded corner of the hospital garden, Mrs. Carter began to share memories of a man she described as extraordinary in every way. In her measured, nostalgic tone, she recalled how Jonathan had a rare gift of making everyone feel uniquely important. He had a way of lighting up a room without uttering a single boast, Mrs. Carter said, her voice quivering with emotion. Even the simplest act from him, an offer of help, a kind word, seemed to carry the weight of his generosity and brilliant mind. Her reminiscences hinted at a life of hidden philanthropy and silent heroism, suggesting that the Jonathan before them was once a man celebrated not only for his intellect, but for his warm, giving heart. Inspired by Mrs. Carter's recollections, Ellie began to piece together other hints from various conversations and sporadic visits from family members. A distant cousin, during a quiet moment in the waiting area, confided that Jonathan had emerged from humble beginnings, his youthful dreams fueled by an insatiable hunger for knowledge and a burning desire to rise above his circumstances. "He was always a dreamer," the cousin said softly, eyes glistening with remembered pride. Even as a child, he possessed an inner fire that set him apart from everyone else. These words resonated deeply with Ellie as she recalled the subtle details she had observed. A photograph of a young man brimming with hope, a pair of spectacles resting atop a stack of old journals, and a delicate memento that hinted at long-forgotten days of youthful ambition. Each of these items was a silent testament to a past filled with struggle, aspiration, and unexpected triumphs. As more pieces of the puzzle came together, Ellie realized that Jonathan's past was not merely a backdrop to his current condition. It was a rich tapestry of experiences that spanned decades. His journey had been marked by both public acclaim and private suffering, a duality that lent an air of melancholy to the otherwise inspiring narrative. In whispered conversations with longtime staff and a few reluctant family members, Ellie learned that Jonathan's rise to success was paved with personal sacrifices. He had achieved greatness not through ostentatious displays, but with a quiet dignity and an unwavering commitment to making the world a better place. One nurse recalled with a hint of awe that he had once anonymously funded community projects and provided support to those in need, never seeking recognition or praise for his generosity. His financial success, it seemed, was only one facet of his character, overshadowed by the depth of his compassion and the weight of the burdens he carried silently. On a particularly reflective evening, as rain gently tapped on the hospital windows and the corridors lay hushed, Ellie found herself in conversation with Dr. Marcus Fielding, a seasoned physician who had cared for Jonathan since his admission. Dr. Fielding spoke in a low, measured tone, his eyes reflecting the solemnity of his memories. There was always something profound about him, he confided. Even when he was unconscious, there was a spark, a quiet intensity that suggested he was still fighting battles within. He was not simply a patient in need of treatment. He was a man whose spirit had been through so much. His words deepened the mystery and lent credence to the idea that Jonathan's silence was a reflection of an inner turmoil shaped by a life of extraordinary highs and lows. The doctor's account, mingled with the recollections of family and friends, painted a portrait of a man whose very essence was defined by both brilliance and a poignant vulnerability. Every conversation, every shared memory became a cherished thread in the tapestry of Jonathan's past. Ellie began to document these snippets in a small notebook, carefully recording each detail, each emotional recollection, as if preserving a legacy for a man who might one day find his voice again. With every entry, she felt more connected to him, not just as a patient, but as an individual whose hidden story was slowly coming into focus. The diary was not merely a log of clinical observations. It was a tribute to a life that had touched many, a life that had been both celebrated and quietly mourned. In these moments of quiet revelation, Ellie recognized a profound truth, that every patient is a repository of stories and experiences waiting to be rediscovered. Jonathan's past, with all its complexity, was a reminder that human lives are never one-dimensional. His legacy, as gathered from the soft voices of those who remembered him, was one of kindness interwoven with sacrifice, brilliance intertwined with humility. Each recollection added depth to his character, transforming him from a silent, enigmatic presence into a man whose life, though filled with both triumphs and sorrows, was a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit. Through these layers of memory and emotion, Ellie's duty of care had evolved into a personal mission to honor and celebrate the intricate, hidden beauty of his existence. Every day in the quiet corridors of the hospital, there were moments that transcended the routine of medical care and illuminated the resilience of the human spirit. Nurse Eleanor Thompson had long learned that healing was not merely a matter of physical recovery. It was an intricate tapestry woven from threads of hope, compassion, and the silent whispers of the soul. On many occasions, even in the midst of uncertainty and despair, the smallest signs of life revealed that humanity could shine through the darkest moments. One morning, as soft rays of sunlight filtered through the high windows, Ellie noticed a subtle change in her patient, Jonathan. It began with the faint flutter of his eyelids, as if they were stirred by a distant memory or the echo of a forgotten melody. Though still unconscious, that gentle movement sparked in her a deep sense of optimism. To Ellie, this was more than a random twitch. It was a delicate reminder that beneath the veil of stillness, the spirit was alive and capable of awakening at the slightest touch of kindness. During her rounds, as Ellie adjusted pillows and checked the steady rhythm of Jonathan's breathing, she spoke softly to him about the wonders of the day outside. She described the vibrant colors of the blooming flowers in the hospital garden and the cheerful chatter of children playing in the park. Her voice carried warmth and genuine enthusiasm, and for a brief moment, the room seemed to resonate with an unspoken promise of renewal. In that instant, the sterile environment transformed into a haven where hope was nurtured by the simple act of sharing one's inner world. Later that day, a visitor arrived, a young girl named Lily, who had come to see her grandmother. Lily, with her wide eyes and innocent curiosity, exuded a sense of wonder that reminded Ellie of the beauty inherent in each human connection. As Lily sat by Jonathan's bedside, she clutched a small stuffed bear, offering it to the patient as if bestowing a gift of comfort and companionship. The tender gesture stirred something within Jonathan, causing a slight, almost imperceptible, smile to play upon his lips. To anyone else, this might have been dismissed as a mere coincidence, but to Ellie, it was a profound indication that even the smallest gestures carried the power to bridge the gap between isolation and intimacy. The day unfolded with a series of such moments, each one a testament to the resilient pulse of life beating quietly beneath the surface of uncertainty. Ellie observed how a softly whispered lullaby from a visiting nurse seemed to ease the tension in Jonathan's brow, or how the rhythmic tapping of rain against the window synchronized with the slow cadence of his heartbeat. These instances were not grand miracles, but rather delicate wonders, fragments of humanity that shone brightly in an otherwise subdued setting. In those moments, the boundaries between caregiver and patient blurred, and a shared understanding of vulnerability and hope emerged. As twilight descended and the hospital corridors were bathed in the gentle glow of evening lights, Ellie took a moment to reflect on the day's events. She recognized that while the path to recovery was fraught with uncertainty, it was also paved with countless instances of quiet triumph. Each small sign, a flicker of a smile, a soft murmur in response to a familiar tune, a tiny gesture of connection, was a reminder that the human spirit was indomitable. In these fleeting instants, life reaffirmed its ability to surprise and inspire, even in the face of overwhelming challenges. For Ellie, these glimpses of humanity were not only sources of professional satisfaction, but also personal solace. They validated her belief that every act of kindness, no matter how seemingly insignificant, contributed to a larger narrative of healing and renewal. In the stillness of the night, as she recorded the day's observations in her journal, Ellie found comfort in the knowledge that her compassionate care had kindled sparks of hope in a heart that had long been shrouded in darkness. She knew that the journey toward recovery was a mosaic of countless moments, each one a quiet celebration of life's inherent beauty. The interplay of light and shadow in that small hospital room became a canvas upon which the subtle hues of human emotion were painted. Ellie recalled the warmth of a gentle touch, the soothing cadence of a familiar song, and the unspoken language of care that flowed between her and Jonathan. These moments, though fragile and transient, carried within them the promise of awakening, a promise that the bonds of humanity could triumph over despair. It was in these gentle exchanges that Ellie saw the true essence of healing, a process that required not only medical expertise, but also the deep empathy that connected one soul to another. As the night deepened and the world outside fell into quiet slumber, Ellie lingered at Jonathan's bedside, her thoughts a medley of hope and determination. She understood that every day brought new challenges, yet also new opportunities to witness the subtle miracles that defined the human experience. In the silence of that room, amidst the hum of machines and the soft murmur of distant voices, A fragile yet enduring bond had formed. A bond built on trust, compassion, and the belief that even in uncertainty, humanity would always find a way to shine through. Nurse Eleanor Thompson had always trusted her intuition, but nothing in her, years of compassionate care, had prepared her for the revelation that would soon upend her understanding of Jonathan's true identity. Over time, subtle clues that had been scattered throughout his hospital room and personal belongings began to coalesce into an unmistakable pattern, one that hinted at a life far more extraordinary than anyone had suspected. For months, Jonathan had been the quiet patient in the room who responded to gentle words and soft melodies. Yet now the secret of his true self was poised to burst forth like a hidden spring, transforming his narrative from that of a mysterious man in a coma to that of a reclusive billionaire with a staggering legacy. The first hint emerged during a routine morning check. As Eleanor adjusted the neatly folded blankets around Jonathan's form, her eyes fell upon a delicate silver pen resting on his bedside table, a pen that gleamed with an almost regal luster. It was no ordinary writing instrument. Its design was intricate, embossed with a monogram that suggested a lineage steeped in history and influence. For a moment, Ellie paused, pondering the significance of this object. In her experience, personal effects often spoke volumes about the individual, and this pen whispered of a life marked by both privilege and a refined sense of purpose. Later that day, while taking a short break in the hospital's staff lounge, Ellie overheard a hushed conversation between two colleagues. They discussed a recent news article about a major philanthropic donation to the town's community center, a donation so large that it had made headlines in regional papers. The donor, they said, was a man known for his low profile and quiet generosity, a man who had always insisted on anonymity. As their conversation unfolded, Ellie's mind raced with possibilities. Could it be that the very man she cared for each day was this enigmatic benefactor? The notion seemed almost too fantastical to entertain, yet the evidence was beginning to mount. As days passed, more pieces of the puzzle emerged. Ellie discovered a small, leather-bound journal hidden among Jonathan's belongings, tucked away behind a stack of carefully organized letters. In its pages were detailed accounts of business ventures, philanthropic endeavors, and personal reflections written in an elegant, flowing script. Each entry chronicled challenges met with unwavering resolve and triumphs achieved with understated grace. The journal painted a portrait of a man who had amassed great wealth not through ostentation, but through a series of strategic decisions and a deep-seated commitment to making a positive impact on the world. It was as if every line of ink held a secret waiting to be unveiled. The turning point came one rainy afternoon when a visitor arrived at the hospital, a man who introduced himself as Mr. Carlyle, a longtime associate of Jonathan. Mr. Carlyle carried an air of quiet confidence and wore a tailored suit that spoke of success and sophistication. In a private conversation with Ellie, Mr. Carlyle recounted the extraordinary journey of his friend. He described how Jonathan had built a financial empire from humble beginnings, a journey marked by brilliance in business and an unyielding dedication to ethical practices. He never sought the spotlight, Mr. Carlyle explained softly, preferring instead to let his work speak for itself. His contributions to society, often made in secret, have transformed countless lives. His words resonated with Ellie, aligning with the fragments of information she had pieced together. The man lying silently in her care was not merely a patient. He was a titan of industry, a guardian angel whose financial prowess had quietly shaped the community. For Ellie, the revelation was both overwhelming and inspiring. As she continued her rounds, every gesture and every meticulously recorded detail took on new meaning. The philanthropic projects she had heard about, the new community center, the scholarship funds for underprivileged children, the revitalization of local parks, suddenly appeared in a different light. They were not random acts of charity, but deliberate, thoughtful contributions from a man who had chosen to remain in the shadows, letting his generosity define him. Ellie's sense of wonder grew with each new discovery, mingling with a deep respect for the humble nature of Jonathan's character. Despite his vast wealth and the influence it commanded, his legacy was rooted in acts of kindness, and a steadfast commitment to uplifting others. In the days that followed, Ellie found herself poring over every scrap of evidence with a newfound determination. The silver pen, the journal, the whispered conversations in the hallways, they were all pieces of a larger story that she was now compelled to understand. With each passing moment, the secret of Jonathan's identity transformed from a distant possibility into an undeniable truth. He was not merely a man in a coma. He was a reclusive billionaire whose financial empire was matched only by the quiet magnitude of his generosity. This realization deepened Ellie's resolve to provide him with the compassionate care he deserved, recognizing that behind the layers of mystery lay a human heart that had long beat with empathy and grace. In that moment, Ellie understood that unveiling Jonathan's secret did not diminish her care, it enriched it. His hidden legacy symbolized that true greatness resides in humility, inspiring her to continue nurturing his recovery with unwavering compassion. This revelation affirmed her belief in truly transformative power of kindness. Nurse Eleanor Thompson had always believed that healing extended far beyond the physical treatment of wounds and ailments. In her quiet moments at Jonathan's bedside, she came to understand that true recovery required confronting the past, a journey that involved revisiting painful memories, acknowledging regrets, and embracing the possibility of redemption. The discovery of old letters, diaries, and photographs in Jonathan's personal belongings had opened a window into a life marked by both brilliant successes and heart-wrenching losses. Each document whispered secrets of a younger man who had fought against adversity, forged his own path in a world that often seemed indifferent, and suffered quietly beneath the weight of unspoken sorrows. In reading these relics of a bygone era, Ellie felt the pull of a shared humanity that connected her own struggles with those of the enigmatic patient. Determined to help Jonathan move beyond the painful echoes of his past, Ellie began a gentle process of inquiry. She reached out to his long-lost relatives and acquaintances, asking subtle questions about his early years and the significant events that had shaped him. In hushed conversations, family members recounted stories of a compassionate young man with grand dreams whose life was suddenly upended by unexpected tragedy. One elderly cousin recalled a day when Jonathan, despite his own hardship, had selflessly extended a helping hand to a stranger in need. These accounts painted a portrait of a man who was not only brilliant and wealthy, but also deeply human. A man who had known both joy and sorrow, success and failure. As Ellie listened, she realized that acknowledging these past chapters was essential for healing, for only by confronting them could Jonathan hope to reconcile with his own story. With this newfound understanding, Ellie organized quiet sessions of reflection for Jonathan. Although he lay unresponsive in his bed, she spoke to him as if he could hear every word. In gentle tones, she recounted the stories she had gathered, weaving them together into a narrative that honored both his hardships and his triumphs. She explained how every setback in life, every moment of despair, could be transformed into a stepping stone towards a better future. In these moments, the hospital room became a sanctuary where the past was not a source of shame, but a foundation upon which healing could be built. Ellie believed that by confronting his own history, Jonathan might one day find the strength to forgive himself and embrace the possibility of renewal. As days passed, subtle changes began to emerge. One afternoon, while Ellie sat by Jonathan's bedside reading aloud from one of his old diaries, a slight movement of his fingers caught her attention. It was a tiny gesture, yet it filled her with hope that the process of confronting his past was making a difference. The simple act of sharing his history, of turning painful memories into a tapestry of lessons learned, seemed to unlock something within him. In that quiet moment, the gap between despair and healing narrowed, and the possibility of a new beginning glimmered in the gentle light that filtered through the window. Ellie's heart swelled with the belief that every act of remembrance was a step towards redemption. In the weeks that followed, Ellie continued to nurture Jonathan's journey toward healing by integrating moments of reflection into his daily routine. She would often sit with him in silence, allowing the weight of shared memories to settle in the quiet of the room. In these reflective intervals, she recounted stories from her own life, tales of loss, resilience, and the eventual triumph of the human spirit over hardship. By opening up about her personal experiences, Ellie hoped to create a bridge between her world and his, a pathway that might eventually lead him to reconcile with the ghosts of his past. The hospital became a place not only of medical recovery, but also of emotional catharsis, where old wounds were acknowledged and slowly, tenderly healed. As the process of confronting the past unfolded, Jonathan's physical state began to show subtle signs of improvement. One morning, when the soft glow of dawn filled the room, Ellie noticed that his hand twitched in response to her gentle touch. It was a minute yet promising gesture, a silent affirmation that the emotional release, triggered by revisiting his history, was translating into physical healing. The moment was both fragile and profound, embodying the belief that the journey toward wholeness required the integration of mind, body, and spirit. Ellie felt that each incremental change was a victory, a testament to the resilience that lay dormant within him and waiting to be awakened through compassion and understanding. In the soft, quiet evenings that followed, Ellie would sit by Jonathan's bed and softly recount the progress he had made, however slight. She shared with him stories of people who had overcome great adversity by facing their past, and of lives that had been transformed by forgiveness and self-acceptance. In these reflective moments, the painful chapters of his history were reinterpreted as essential experiences that had contributed to his strength. The act of sharing and listening was therapeutic, not only for Jonathan but also for Ellie, who found in his journey a mirror for her own challenges. Through their unspoken dialogue, the once daunting burden of regret began to lift, replaced by a tentative hope for renewal. Every new day reaffirmed healing's promise and strength to move forward. At last, the moment had arrived when hope and perseverance converged to illuminate a path toward recovery and renewal. Nurse Eleanor Thompson watched with a heart full of quiet joy as Jonathan, who had been ensnared in the depths of unconsciousness for so long, began to show unmistakable signs of awakening. The subtle yet significant changes in his demeanor marked a turning point that transformed the somber atmosphere of his hospital room into a canvas of possibility. Every slight movement, every tentative flutter of his eyelids, and every barely perceptible twitch in his fingers resonated as symbols of a spirit reawakening. In that moment, the very air in the room seemed charged with a promise of healing, a gentle reminder that even the longest nights eventually yield to the light of a new dawn. This pivotal moment infused every corner of the room with renewed hope and unyielding determination indeed. As the days progressed, the evidence of Jonathan's recovery became increasingly apparent. Initially, there were only the smallest signs: a gentle squeeze of his hand when touched, a faint flutter behind closed eyelids, as if recalling forgotten dreams. Yet each of these signs built upon the last, creating a mosaic of incremental improvements that filled the hearts of his caregivers with optimism. Nurse Thompson, ever vigilant, meticulously recorded every subtle change in his condition, from the strengthening of his grip to the gradual return of color to his cheeks. The routine, once marked by uncertainty, was now imbued with a sense of promise and forward motion. Colleagues and family alike marveled at the steady progress, finding in each improvement a testament to the enduring resilience of the human spirit and the transformative power of compassionate care. Every incremental advance served as a beacon of hope, reinforcing the unwavering belief in recovery. Jonathan's journey from the brink of deep slumber to the early stages of awakening was not merely a physical transformation, but a profound reclamation of his inner life. Each morning, as the first gentle rays of sunlight filtered into his room, a new opportunity for healing was born. Nurse Thompson's dedicated presence provided both comfort and structure, guiding him through the delicate process of re-establishing connections with the world outside. His gradual return of reflexes, however slight, became an eloquent narrative of resilience and determination. The medical staff celebrated every success, from the smallest movement of a hand to the first murmured sound, as these milestones signified the reawakening of a dormant spirit. In quiet moments of reflection, those around him recognized that his recovery was a multifaceted triumph, combining the rigor of medical science with the tender, immeasurable power of human connection. Every sign reinforced the promise of renewal. Within the supportive embrace of the hospital community, Jonathan's turning point inspired a renewed focus on the interconnectedness of every life touched by his silent struggle. Colleagues, family, members, and even distant acquaintances found themselves united by the common thread of hope that flowed from his gradual recovery. Nurse Thompson organized small gatherings near his room, where stories of perseverance were shared and aspirations for future milestones were nurtured. These moments of collective celebration served to affirm the transformative power of kindness and solidarity. Every whispered word of encouragement, every gentle touch on a weary shoulder, and every tear shed in quiet joy contributed to an atmosphere where renewal was not just possible, but imminent. The community's shared belief in Jonathan's eventual return to full health resonated as a beacon of inspiration for all who witnessed his extraordinary journey. Their united hope and care propelled him toward a brighter future. During this period of recovery, the hospital transformed into a realm of renewal where every element of care harmonized with the human spirit's capacity to rebound. Jonathan's progress became a living symbol of rejuvenation, inspiring even the most disheartened patients and staff. Nurse Thompson, with unwavering dedication, introduced new routines designed to engage his senses and stimulate his awareness. Gentle music replaced the silence of his earlier days, and familiar scents of flowers and freshly brewed tea were infused into the room to evoke pleasant memories. Every change, no matter how minor, was celebrated as a victory against the odds. His caregivers embraced both science and empathy, merging clinical interventions with heartfelt encouragement. Each day's progress was documented and revered, affirming that recovery was a gradual, deeply personal journey. The steady rhythm of renewed life in the room spoke of resilience, affirming that hope can revive even faltering spirits indeed. Indai. The culmination of his long journey, Jonathan's awakening was celebrated not merely as a recovery from illness, but as a rebirth into a life replete with possibilities. His once muted presence now radiated with the vibrant energy of a man reclaiming his voice, dreams, and aspirations. Nurse Thompson marveled at how each regained function signified a victory against despair and a step toward self-discovery. The interplay of modern medicine and timeless human kindness had forged a path that led him back to the realm of the living. Family and friends gathered around him, their smiles and gentle words coalescing into an atmosphere of unbridled joy and gratitude. In that transformative moment, every heart in the hospital recognized the miracle of renewal, understanding that every setback could eventually lead to a new beginning filled with hope and endless promise. Every heartbeat celebrated the triumphant rebirth of a remarkably resilient soul indeed. At long last, the final chapter of Jonathan's journey had arrived, and a new beginning emerged from the shadows of his past. The hospital, once a place of quiet suffering and uncertainty, now radiated hope and promise. Every act of care and every whispered word of encouragement had laid the foundation for this remarkable transformation. Nurse Eleanor Thompson, whose compassion had guided him through his darkest hours, smiled as she witnessed the subtle light returning to his eyes. In that tender moment, it was clear that healing transcended the physical, blossoming instead into a celebration of the human spirit profoundly. Family, friends, and community members gathered in a joyous assembly within the hospital's atrium to honor Jonathan's revival. Their eyes sparkled with gratitude as they recalled the quiet miracles that had brought him back from the brink. Each shared story, each tear of relief, wove together a tapestry of resilience and unity. The celebration was not solely about a patient's recovery. It was a tribute to the enduring power of empathy that had transformed lives. In every heartfelt embrace and every smile exchanged, the message was clear. Hope had found a home in their hearts, filling them with joy, truly. The hospital itself had transformed into a beacon of compassion, its corridors echoing with the legacy of healing and hope. Vibrant murals and blooming gardens testified to a renewed spirit, inviting every visitor to pause and reflect. Within these nurturing walls, the focus shifted from clinical procedures to the profound human connection that sustained recovery. Every nurse, doctor, and caregiver contributed to an environment where empathy flourished and lives were mended. Jonathan's journey had sparked a revolution of kindness, inspiring initiatives that reached far beyond the confines of medical care and touched the very soul of the community with grace. As Jonathan continued to regain strength, his recovery took on profound meaning that went beyond physical healing. The unveiling of his inner self challenged conventional ideas of success, proving that true richness lies in the capacity for kindness. His journey, marked by quiet acts of generosity and personal triumphs, resonated deeply with everyone around him. The community celebrated his story as a symbol of renewal, where each gesture of care reflected the transformative power of empathy. Every encounter affirmed that compassion can change lives and ignite hope in each corner of the human heart, uniting hearts with unwavering belief forever. In a touching ceremony held in the hospital's sunlit atrium, loved ones gathered around Jonathan to honor his rebirth. Family members, old friends, and even distant acquaintances shared heartfelt memories and expressed their gratitude for his renewed life. Their voices blended into a chorus of celebration, each story echoing the timeless truth that empathy and kindness can overcome the greatest challenges. The atmosphere was filled with laughter, tears of joy, and the warm embrace of unity. In that moment, every individual present felt a deep connection, as if they were all part of a larger, compassionate family and heartfelt solidarity. Following the celebration, the hospital community embraced Jonathan's remarkable journey as a catalyst for change. New initiatives were launched to promote holistic healing, ensuring that every patient received care that nourished both body and spirit. Nurse Thompson spearheaded programs that integrated emotional support with medical treatment, encouraging staff to view each interaction as an opportunity to spread kindness. These efforts fostered an environment where empathy was not merely an ideal but a daily practice. In this nurturing space, every success story added to a growing legacy of compassion, inspiring others to believe that healing and hope can flourish beyond measure. Amidst the transformative energy, Jonathan found himself on the threshold of a life reimagined. Each day brought renewed strength and a blossoming confidence as he slowly rediscovered his voice. Conversations with Nurse Thompson evolved into heartfelt exchanges where dreams, once muted by hardship, were now expressed with clarity and passion. His interactions were gentle and genuine, reflecting a deep connection with those who had supported his journey. Every word he spoke and every smile he shared served as a testament to the power of perseverance and the enduring impact of compassion on the human soul, uplifting all who listened truly. Following his inspiring recovery, the community set its sights on a future built on empathy and mutual care. Jonathan's journey had ignited a collective movement, spurring initiatives that nurtured the well-being of every individual. Community centers flourished, and volunteer programs expanded as people united to create a supportive network. Every act of kindness was celebrated, and every story of triumph served as a reminder of the strength that comes from togetherness. The ripple effects of Jonathan's transformation reached far beyond the hospital walls, inspiring lasting change and proving that when hearts unite, hope becomes an unstoppable force for all eternity. In the final reflection of this extraordinary journey, Nurse Thompson acknowledged that Jonathan's revival was a beacon for future generations. His story underscored the transformative power of empathy, teaching everyone that healing is a journey shared by all. Every milestone, every gentle word, and every act of kindness had contributed to a legacy that would endure. As the community looked toward tomorrow with renewed hope and compassion, they carried forward the lessons learned from his experience. In that sacred moment, the triumph of the human spirit was celebrated, reminding all that every ending is simply the start of something new. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, true healing begins with kindness and compassion. Sometimes the smallest acts can create the biggest changes. If this story touched your heart, please like and subscribe for more inspiring content. We'd love to hear your thoughts. What was your favorite moment in the story? How do you think acts of kindness can change someone's life? Have you ever experienced a moment that changed your perspective on compassion? Share your answers in the comments below.